Well, I reckon it's about 75, 1975, not 1875. But, and why did it begin? You couldn't buy fishing tackle then. You had to make your own. Back in those days, I mean, the 60s and 70s, there wasn't the array of fishing tackle that we've got now, any means. We didn't even have cart rods. I think Richard Walker cart rod was the only one. Anyway, and so it was a case of necessity. And the only bite alarm that was available then was a Heron bite alarm, which in its standard form was just not up to it. It was just an electromechanical buzzer, used to drain your battery overnight and all this sort of stuff, you know. So I was in the British Carp Study Group at the time, and also I used to run the branch down in Essex and the CAA, Carp Anglers Association. So in the magazines, I found out some means of doing conversions. I can't say it was all my idea originally, but somebody else's idea that I took on board, and I thought I'd do a set for myself. So I did a set of Herons and a buzzer box, and it was revolutionary. I mean, it just changed everything. We were no longer knocking batteries out overnight. And anyway, the bottom line is that somebody came round and had a look. This is at Darrenth in Kent, when I was fishing mainly then, and said, "Can you make a set for me?" And I went, ding, ding, ding. Fishing's costing a lot of money at the time. I mean, you couldn't buy boilies. We had to make our own bait. The ingredients were very expensive, etc., etc. So I thought, I'm taking money out of the housekeeping to go fishing, and it would be nice if I could, you know, make a little bit of money out of it. So I thought, yeah, I'll have a go. I'll make you a set. And that's how it all started. The very first Delkim product depends on we were only doing conversions. We never made a bite alarm as such, apart from this handmade beast here, which I still have from about, I think, 76. I made these, and I've even got the original drawings that I did. I'm not, as you can see, I'm not very good at these sorts of things, but I managed to do that. And I made this, and it still works. So that really was the first Delkim as such, because I made it from scratch, but never commercially available. It was only for our own little group of anglers. And then it moved on to doing, well, the Optonic bite alarm came along, and that changed everything. That was a totally different animal altogether, because this thing worked just on a pair of contacts closing, and the Optonic worked on a roller, and the roller had a light beam, and the light beam and the circuitry made it go beep, 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 etc., etc. Again, that was not perfect by any means. It used to run batteries out because the light beam was on all the time and inside. So I thought to myself, there's got to be a way of doing that without any current battery drain. Found out through the CAA cum BCSG at the time that if you used a reed switch and a magnet, you could in fact turn or detect the rotation of the wheel with no current drain whatsoever in the off position, only when it was going beep, beep, beep. But when it's standing in standby, just waiting for a bite, there was no current drain at all. So I thought, I'll do some conversions. Now, there was another guy around at the time called Les Bamford, who you may have heard of, and he did some conversions, similar sort of thing, but I don't think he used the magnet and reed switch. Anyway, we went to do that. I did that, and we was converting people's heads, and that is an example of a converted. That'll do your level of your sound. That's on the ear splitters, that one. So that was what was available. I did conversions for people, But the manufacturers of Optonics didn't like the fact that I was doing such a good job. And I'll keep it short, but we ended up in the High Court because I was advised that what I was doing was perfectly okay. But we lost the case and I had to stop making them. So that sort of was the next stage whereby I thought, well, if I can't do that, I'm not going to go back to the Herons. I need to invent my own bite alarm. It was quite complicated over the fact that we were using their patented method, even though we were using their product and converting their products. I'm just like somebody buying a car and sticking a bigger engine in it, but that was deemed to be by the High Court as being not allowed. So we had to stop. So then there was a gap, and the gap involved a lot of me thinking, how can I do this without using a roller? So that comes on to the next stage, which is the vibration sensing stage. So we're coming on to the vibration sensing. How did it come about? Well, it was a means to an end. Couldn't use a roller because of the patents situation. So I was scratching my head. I've got to find a way of determining that the line's moving, how fast it's moving, etc., without using a roller. And the truth is, I did have this famous dream in the middle of the night where I suddenly woke up and thought, hold on a minute, what happens if I run some fishing line over the stylus of my record player? Now, record decks then, they've made a comeback now. Vinyl is the greatest thing since sliced bread now, I'm told. But I thought, if I run the line over the stylus, what's going to happen? I know it's going to make a horrible noise. So this is true. I did tootle off downstairs. I turned on the record deck, the old-fashioned stereo, big system, etc. Got a bit of line over the stylus, and it went horrible grinding sound. Fine, okay, I expected that. What happens if I go faster? It went, and the frequency, the sound increased, went up. And I went, hold on a minute, there's a speed relationship here between what I'm doing, dragging it over the stylus. The faster I drag it, the higher there's a frequency change here. Surely there's something here that I can use. So that was essentially the start of the Delkim vibration system. These were early prototypes with the vibration sensing. There's a piezo sensor in there with a little V in it, and they were disguised as Optonic, because they were in the Optonic cases, because we never had a moulding then for the case. So it was a good thing. We could go fishing, nobody would know what we were doing. So here we go. So this is the configuration that we were going to use. We had no mould tool or anything at the time. We then set about making a design that was going to incorporate everything. And this is the very first configuration. And you can see that the knobs, the control knobs, are in the same order as they are on the other one. And that was designed for me by a son of a colleague that I was in the shoe industry, and he was educated at, I think, Loughborough University, and he was doing an art course. We thought, this is a really nice shape. It's different to your regular bite alarms. The rod can sit in there nicely. There's a groove for the line to run through, etc., etc. And that became the basic shape of the Delkim, which we still have a similar shape today, but then there was a progression, obviously, over a period of time. So that's circa 1992. People still love them, and we did some facelifting, and we ended up with another version. So same basic moulding, and that's the plus range and the different controls, but all smoother design, still works the same way. exactly the same. Nothing changed. All the electronics were identical. I've still got lots of ideas in my head, but my old brain is not quite as quick as it used to be, and that's a fact. And I'm 77 now, and I'm finding it more difficult to remember. Mind you, my recollection of technical details is very, very good. I just can't remember when my wife's birthday is and stuff like that, you know. So, which is a bit embarrassing. Or what I did 5 minutes ago with my keys. But yeah, I've still got a lot of ideas, and I'm trying to pass those ideas on to the family. And it's inevitable that I can't continue at the pace I've been. I've got to take a back seat, and I've decided that the business is going to be handed over to my son Lee and my daughter Carla. It's their mum with me that started the business in the first place, and that's the legacy of Delkim. Without her, Beverly, people thought her name was Kim, which used to wind her up something wicked. She used to come to shows with us and on the stand initially, and hello Kim, you know, they think they were being clever, you know. Her name wasn't Kim, it's Bev. And yeah, without her support, I would never have started Delkim or had the guts to give my management job in the shoe industry when I came up to Northampton. That started everything off, and it was her support that said, okay, you know, I said, this is what I want to do, you know. And she said, I'm behind you. And without that, so that was the start of the full-time business. And she'll never be forgotten on that front. And obviously the logical thing is to hand it over to the family. I've remarried, and now I've got, there's 5 of them there's 7 of us all together. It is a true family business. There's myself and Carol, my wife, and Lee and Carla, and then Mark, Paul, Robert are the other side of Carrington's side of the family. And that is Delkim in a nutshell. It's a unique business with genuine family connections. But I can't take that with me to the grave, and I know that I've got limited time span now, and I've got to be realistic, and handing it over to the family is the next stage of Delkim.